Wide receiver remains the most important position in fantasy football. The 2025 Dynasty rookie class has a lot of names, but we have to sift through and trying to find some treasure amongst these tricks. Let's analyze the 2025 wide receiver class.
It's short king summer, dude. It just feels like no one in fantasy sports ever learns anything. Does he mistime it, or is Brock Bowers just a grown man? Brock Bowers is just a grown man. Dare I say, Rich, football might be back. In the words of Lane Johnson, this offense looks constipated. It's short king summer.
Hear me? Did you hear any of that? No, where did Kerrane go? It seems like StreamYard is owning me.
Hey.
Here we go. Can you hear me?
I think you were just frozen in a very funny face.
I think StreamYard just glitched out, actually.
Okay.
I actually don't think that was my fault. I'm blaming that on StreamYard.
That was such a funny way to start. I'm like just sitting there.
Well, that's a great way to start discussing the 2025 wide receiver class, because the best wide receiver in the class is probably not a wide receiver. You've got everything from people saying Matthew Golden is the wide receiver one, to Tet is clearly the wide receiver one, to there's not going to be any wide receiver other than Tet in the first class. I don't know. What is your high level opinion of this wide receiver class?
And my high level opinion is that, our opinions are always kind of like
incomplete.
Incomplete and kind of we're at the mercy of like what has happened before and kind of what else is happening, right? So the influence of this class coming after repeated classes where we're like, this is the best wide receiver class since 2014, right? We have the 2020 class. We've had very strong wide receiver classes like every year since, basically.
Yep.
And so this is the first year where we're like, this class is just not anything special. There's nothing in this class, nothing about this class you're like, oh my God, can you believe how good this wide receiver class is? Like, no one's going to be saying that. And that used to be pretty normal. It used to be like common that like the wide receiver class would be like fine. And it's just been a while since we've had one. So I think I'm kind of like fighting, the feeling. My initial feeling wants to be like, oh, this is a bad wide receiver class, but it's really not. It's just not what it was the last few years. And then we also have the context of the running back class is really deep. The running back class is kind of like last year's wide receiver class, where you've got a Genty kind of filling in for your Neighbors and your Harrison. You got guys who will also be, drafted very highly and form a nice second tier. The third tier is really interesting. So the running back class, after a while of not having depth, is deep. And in some ways that makes the wide receiver class feel even worse.
I think that's right. I think the corresponding thing of just every year rookie wide receiver smashing, Brian Thomas Jr. last year, Marvin Harrison Jr., generational prospect. And as you mentioned, the running backs being like, oh my God, these running backs are amazing. And then you look at the wide receivers and you're like, well, they seem okay. They seem all right. That I think is the big differentiator. Yeah. Now there are always guys to be excited about, right? There are going to be guys that have great combines that we didn't necessarily anticipate. It's pretty early in the draft process right now. There are going to be guys who go way up, both, dynasty rankings, and then also in the NFL draft of like where NFL teams are considering these guys. Like if one of the two Texas guys shows up, Golden or Bond, and does what Worthy, maybe not the same speed, but does what Worthy did last year in terms of being Worthy was not expected to be a first round pick. Then he ran the fastest combine in NFL history. and he was a first round pick. You know,
He was in the mix though. He was
he was in the mix.
Yeah.
Sure. But
But you're right. It's similar to Golden and Bond. It'd be similar. Yeah.
Worthy was not a guy that if you watch college football all the time, you'd be like, oh, well, he's totally a first round wide receiver.
Right,
you know,
right.
he's kind of like a middling player at Texas, not a particularly great football school while he was there. They got immediately better once he left. He and AD Mitchell got picked in the NFL draft, and then they made the college football playoff, you know? All right, so let's begin with
is it this?
No, it's not. He just had a
all right. I was just saying, I mean, that could be related.
What if it was AD Mitchell? What if it was AD Mitchell, brother?
An AD Mitchell joke, yeah.
Yeah. Let's begin with Tet. So
yeah,
do the bit your bit on Tet McMillan and explain why he's basically just Drake London.
Yeah, so Tet McMillan, I kind of come late to the party with this prospect stuff, and I play catch up, but I'm always, I'm kind of keeping an eye and ear to, who are the guys, next year, like, and you'd hear about, you do Jacob Cowing research and watch him, and people are like, oh, I mean, Cowing's fine, but the guy he's playing with, Tet McMillan, this is going to be the dude. Right. And so I knew, Tet McMillan, is keeping an eye on him, and digging further into him, my first reaction was kind of disappointment, because as guy who's been held up as like the guy in a class and the number one wide receiver in this class, I think some people might have Travis Hunter ahead if he was a pure wide receiver, but I think even like generally, I think most people would still have Tet as the wide receiver one, even if Hunter was only a wide receiver, it'd probably be close. But I'm like, man, as the number one wide receiver in the class, he doesn't really like have great separation skills. He had a high rate of contested deep targets. Didn't have a great contested catch rate deep. So I'm like, that's a red flag. Like that's like one of the Terrace Marshall, JJ Arcega-Whiteside kind of red flag of like you're kind of like relying on a skill that like won't actually translate, and you weren't like that good at in college of these contested catches deep. So that was kind of the low point of my Tet evaluation. But hyper productive 3-year player, and I think the more I dug into him, I'm like, I think I'm misunderstanding. Like, I don't think his game isn't that like bully ball downfield thing. He is much more like a Drake London, where he's
not dunking on people.
Right. He's using his frame and his length to really be a dominant intermediate receiver. That's like kind of where he's probably gonna his bread and butter in the pros is going to be more in the intermediate area. And he could do it from the outside, so we don't have to talk about like big slot stuff, but certainly you could move around the formation. But he's a guy who's got like really good, from what I understand, his route tree is really, really strong in the intermediate stuff. So overall for me, he actually comes out quite well. He looks like a pretty strong target. There is, I would say, a little bit of the floor would be he doesn't separate all that well, and maybe he lands with a quarterback who's just like he just doesn't trust him that much, and he has trouble earning targets. That would be kind of your floor case. I think your ceiling case is the quarterback trusts the hell out of him because he's got great hands and he can position defenders away from him with, he understands leverage and stuff. He's a good yards after catch player as well, which I think is important when you're talking about a possession type receiver.
No, that's really important for a guy of his size to be able to add something after the catch.
Yes.
The thing you do not want, particularly in this version of football, like I actually sort of think this style of player, a intermediate run after catch, get him the ball, don't put him in contested catch situations, but as a big guy, is going to become like more in vogue. Like imagine if, like I'm thinking like DeAndre Hopkins on this version of the Chiefs. Like imagine if they put Hopkins in that Rashee Rice role. Like Hopkins is not fast enough or mobile enough to do it anymore, but it's pretty compelling. to think of just
Big
guy
Rashi
bullying.
Rice is actually an interesting comp.
Big Rashi Rice is kind of. I hadn't thought of it until right now. I'm a genius. I didn't even
You
realize
are.
how smart I am.
Cullen in the chat says Mike Evans, and I get that comp. I mean, stylistically, he looks like Mike Evans.
He looks like Mike Evans.
Yeah, he literally looks like him. That was when I was like at my most scared though, because Mike Evans was 230 at Texas A&M.
Mike Evans is kind of a unicorn. There's not really anyone who plays like him in the NFL.
He's really fast. I think he's faster than Tet. He's bigger than Tet. Like
I bet Tet doesn't even run. Just if we're playing the combine game, I bet he comes in, he weighs, he does some drills, he does some interviews, but I bet he doesn't run. What is there to gain?
Yeah, you're probably right. I think to me, it's like he's kind of more like a Michael Pittman with Yak, or a Drake London-y type guy. I think that's what you're looking at, which isn't the most exciting thing in the world, but
it's not really the most exciting guy in the world, no.
But I think if he hits quickly, like he's supposed to be an intermediate target earner, I think is like really where like that's the part of his skill set that I am really excited about. And that if you can earn targets in the intermediate area, you can hit the ground running in a big way, like we saw with Puka, like that's actually a pretty high. That's kind of
a good ceiling comp. Yeah. I like that. The floor cases for him are all the biggest busts you can imagine. Traylon, Corey Coleman, Devontae Parker, just the big, just basically they couldn't separate at the NFL. You can't separate at the NFL.
Yeah. Devontae Parker would be
actually, it's even more of a nail in the coffin to not be able to separate now because of how all teams play horizontally now. Every team plays, no team just plays vertical, right? Like Mac Hollins is a vertical wide receiver in the NFL now. Vertical wide receivers get like 2 targets a game.
I would also say a downside comp would be like a Jordan Matthews. Yeah.
Well, J-Matt, actually, that's another one because J-Matt basically was a possession wide receiver until he hurt his knee. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you have the downside stuff is like he's a possession receiver who doesn't like get open very well, which could be kind of a bummer. So that's where I was like, man, I thought I was going to be like slam dunk, and I don't think he's like a total slam dunk, but I do think that we just kind of zoom back out and kind of remove the initial expectations. This is a guy who's getting top 10 hype. And I don't think it's like hype that will fizzle into, he barely goes in the first round. Like he's going to go high. Maybe he doesn't go top 10, but he's going to very likely be the number 1 wide receiver off the board, excluding Travis Hunter from that. And probably in like the top 15, I think pretty safely. And there's a chance he goes like top 5. I mean, it's not, he gets mocked to the Patriots at 4 and stuff. I don't think that happens, but it's not, it's in the conversation. So
is there any team
no
that would take him where you take him 101 over Genty?
To me, no.
I'm trying to think. Cowboys, maybe. No.
This is what I always say with like it's nice that we were able to, I'm able to lean on something that we've had, a Bijan and then a Genty kind of so quickly in succession. Take Genty, and then if you were kind of thinking about Tet, go shop him for one of these. Go shop him for a Puka. Go shop him for see what you got to add to get to Jefferson or Chase, or like that's the market that Genty puts you in. I think very quickly is in those guys. I mean, Genty could be the Superflex 101 in startups in 2026. Like if he hits, you're going to be looking at year. Like if I'm like, I have a year 2 running back who's very productive.
Right.
That what's better than that? Like the floor ceiling combo is just so good. So I think you just take Genty out would be my advice.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I assume your 2 right now is Burden, but is it Egbuka?
Right now it's Burden. I think it looks a little safer to actually go round 1. I think Egbuka probably goes round 1, but it doesn't seem like a mortal lock.
Doesn't seem like a lock. I agree.
Yeah. Burden, I'm kind of still in like I talked about the journey with Tet where I kind of came back around. Burden, I'm still like in my head a little where I'm not fully bought in on him. He was kind of had gadgety usage. He also had the same red flag as Tet, where he had a high contested target rate on deep targets. He's really good after the catch. I think the thing with
really
Burden,
good after the catch.
Yeah, it's like, is he able to create downfield on his own consistently? Would be my concern for him, because his 56% of his career yak was on behind the line of scrimmage targets, which is a really high number. 22% of his total yards were behind the line of scrimmage. Only 19% of his total yak came on 10-plus yard targets. 42% of his career deep targets were contested, which is actually higher than Tet, and only 38% contested catch rate on those targets. So real downfield usage red flags here for Burden. I would love to see him in an offense that really schemes for their wide receiver as well. I think a concern for me with Burden would be that he like goes to the Cowboys at 12, and they're like, "You're the second fiddle."
I've heard that one mocked a good bit. I believe at Mock Draft Database, I think Cowboys Burden is one of the most popular after Genty Burden.
That would scare me because I don't trust
Cowboys.
Schottenheimer. I trust Schottenheimer to think he can scheme stuff for Burden, and then like both not be that good at it and kind of ultimately not be that committed to it, and then just like primarily his job is like go out there and win, beat your guy, get open. I think, of course, if you got Dak Prescott throwing to you and the defense can't pay attention to you, you could kind of like end up being like a Jordan Addison to his, Justin Jefferson kind of thing. But I think the floor would be pretty low in a scenario where it's like, go beat your guy. I would much prefer him to be somewhere where I trust the scheme.
So it's interesting with Burden because he was so awesome initially. 37% dominator rating, 27% dominator rating at 18 and 19. He's a big deal, around here. I'm in St. Louis. Like people loved him because everyone loves Missouri.
Big time prospect, right? Big time recruit.
Yeah, I believe like the first 5-star wide receiver to commit to Missouri since Dorial Green Beckham. Like it's been like.
Oh.
Well, DGB was from here. DGB was from Springfield. I think Luther Burden was from St. Louis, I believe, actually. Anyway, he was so awesome. 1,200 yards, 9 touchdowns. It was not a touchdowns merchant. You and I talk about that. Like you don't love the guy who gets there to a 35% dominator rating, but he just scored 13 touchdowns on 800 yards. It's not as predictive.
Unless it's Brian Thomas, and then
it's Brian Thomas Jr., then think about it. Based on what I've read, and you guys know I'm not I don't know that much about scheme and fit and all that shit. All the tape watchers said like this Missouri offense just couldn't have been more misguided. Just like didn't know what they were doing. Like asking Luther Burden to do things that he shouldn't have been asked to do, not using his skill set to the greatest degree, still gets to 25% of the yards, 50% of the touchdowns. Now he gets outproduced by Theo Wees, who's a 5th-year transfer from the University of Oklahoma. You don't love that.
Mm-mm.
I think where I'm at with Burden, I do think he's being a little bit overdrafted in the big board right now.
I do too.
Seems like it'll be just like the range of outcomes is wider. He could have a real McCole Hardman-ass rookie year where he like scores some cool touchdowns, but just like can't do the little things right. And so he's only running like 40% of the routes or whatever. I think
he'd have a JSN kind of rookie year where it's like he
have a rookie year. Yeah. But for dynasty drafts, I feel like weirdly, I'm actually going to end up with a ton of him because this is what I get the sense is going to happen in rookie drafts, Kerrane. There's going to be a bunch of running backs who have good combines. There's going to be good landing spots. Oh, the Rams took a guy. The Chiefs took a guy. Oh, the Cowboys didn't take Genty. They traded back and they took Amari Hampton. And the Packers replaced Marshawn Lloyd with a guy in the third round. And the Chargers took a guy. And the Jaguars took a guy with Liam Cohen. Like, and then it's like all of a sudden you're like, wait, we have 8 running backs going in the first round of rookie drafts? That feels wrong, because this happens every year. I've never been in one year where a guy's ADP from pre-rookie drafts to post-drafts, rookie drafts changes a ton. There's someone every year. And if that guy's I don't know, a Bengal maybe, or a Chief, or a
sometimes
Cowboy,
it's Keyshawn Vaughn.
Sometimes it's Keyshawn Vaughn. Clyde Edwards-Helaire went from second round pick rookie draft, maybe third round, to the 101 on average. People totally rewrite. He was going ahead of CeeDee Lamb in rookie drafts. Sources are saying the call is coming from inside the house. That is going to happen this year. And so Burden, Egbuka, Golden, Bond, these guys are going to free fall. Not free fall, but they're going to be cheaper. They're going to be cheaper than they should be, I think.
I think you're
so
right.
Weirdly, I think I'll be lighter on Burden in the big board, but probably heavier on him.
I also don't think Burden will. I mean, he could rise obviously after the draft, but I don't know. Like, where would
he go? That would really make.
I mean, I actually think he would rise probably if he went to Dallas, because people are like targets, good quarterback targets,
right?
Targets are there, and that kind of makes me nervous, because that's one where I'm like, man, I don't trust the coaching staff to help you. But you know how this goes. They often go places where it kind of makes sense for the team. Like Seattle takes JSN. That sucks for us, but a couple years later, it looks like a pretty smart pick. He's their number 1 wide receiver now. They're, kind of maybe 1A to a 1B for Metcalf, but he kind of passes Metcalf as a target earner, and Tyler Lockett's going to get cut unless it takes a massive restructure, and pretty good roster building there to stay ahead at wide receiver. You could see something like that with Burden, I suppose, where now looking at the teams though in the middle of the draft, and there's not a ton of teams that would like realistically take one, but like, what about Arizona? Like, that would be a spot where I'd be like, ugh.
Oh, Arizona. I don't know, because their secondary guys are so average. Like,
he's the third guy, right? I mean, unless if he's the second guy, Marvin Harrison has been a huge bust. But I would bet on him to be the third guy. Atlanta would be
Atlanta would be big. Atlanta would be big, because no disrespect to Darnell Mooney, but there's never been a bigger Tampa Bay Buccaneers merchant ever than Darnell Mooney.
Yeah, although I think a decently wide range of outcomes there, because you have London. Pitts would get, he's like 4th on the target pecking order.
Insanely good big board value, Kyle Pitts.
So maybe I need to be, because there's not like too many landmine. In the middle of the first round, there's actually a number like Green Bay's at 23. Green
Bay needs a real wide receiver 1 so badly.
Yeah, they do. That would be pretty exciting, I think.
Yeah.
There would obviously be some like usage concerns with the way they just never played Reed, and maybe they keep rotating dudes, but the upside would be pretty awesome. So I'm talking myself into it with the landing spots a little bit.
The Packers, I think the second they get a guy they view as the wide receiver 1, I think they'll change that. But the secret is they just think these guys are all okay.
I think
they think they're all okay. I actually think they think Christian Watson is really good, but he just can't stay healthy. All right, let's do Emeka Egbuka next. Just somehow this guy is already boring to me. I don't know how this is, but I'm literally already bored by Emeka, and it's not even his fault. It's just the list of players that he played next to and was just not quite as good. You know, like that's.
Can I
really...
just say real quick on Burden before I forget? At the top of that comp list was Christian Kirk, and I think that's like another guy. I'm like, that's a pretty good comp.
That's a pretty good comp.
Yeah, and kind of how it could go, and maybe he's disappointing at first, but then Christian Kirk was very productive underclassman. Like, it's pretty, it's a very fair comp as well, even though I think he was a second, or was he a second round pick, I think?
Yeah,
but it
took
a couple years. It took a couple years, and then he was a real wide receiver. That would be like kind of my concern with Burden. That like I don't think he's like going to be like a bust, but I think it could take a couple years for him to really get rolling.
All right, this is just a fun exercise to do. Let's just go through the list of players that Emeka Egbuka played next to. So this is his freshman year. Plays with JSN, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Travion Henderson, Jeremy Ruckert, who's a Jet, Marvin Harrison Jr., Cade Stover, who's a Texan. A lot of NFL pedigree there, right?
Yeah.
Let's move to the 2022 Ohio State Buckeye. This was the year he smashed, by the way. Marvin Harrison Jr., Cade Stover, JSN. I guess JSN got hurt this year. Oh, this was the year JSN basically just said, fuck it, I'm going to be a first-round pick anyway, so I'm just not playing. I completely forgot about this. He injures his hamstring and basically just says, all right, I'm out. Egbuka gets outproduced by Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't know what's going to happen to Fleming, obviously. So he basically doubles up Cade Stover. He doubles up Cade Stover. This is his best season at Ohio State. Junior year, 2023, playing next to Marvin Harrison Jr., the aforementioned Cade Stover. He plays 10 games, is banged up here. Basically doubles up Travion Henderson's receiving.
No. I wish he doubled up. I wish he doubled up not a running back. That would be better.
I wish he had more yards on the same amount of receptions as Cade Stover. Now, keep in mind he was banged up. This was the year he got banged up. As I don't know what happened, but somehow in fantasy football, everyone is a fan of Ohio State. So a lot of Ohio State fans are going to tell me what is happening here. Final season at Ohio State. He's of course playing next to the new Marvin Harrison Jr., Jeremiah Smith. He outproduces Carnell Tate. He outproduces G. Scott, who's for sure going to be an NFL player. But basically, you see, this dude was just like a pretty good player next to a lot of other really good players. And there's value in that. But when you're looking at prospects in January and you're doing the big board and you're thinking about, oh man, I've been saving up this first round rookie pick for so long. This is going to change the history of my franchise. Sure, whatever, fine. I'll take him. It's just hard to get. And I'm not even saying he's bad. I'm not saying he can't be a wide receiver one in fantasy. I think it's unlikely, but whatever. It's just hard to get really excited about a guy who profiles as like a good slot wide receiver. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think with Egbuka, what I've tried to learn over the years with these guys is like, just because like the high upside guys don't always hit right away. And like the low floor, or sorry, the low ceiling guys.
Lad, you were making this about Ladd McConkey, and turns out he had both a high floor and a high ceiling.
Yeah.
But you did make this point a while about Ladd.
Yeah, that's like, and I would have like, dude, 2015 Pat would have faded the shit out of Ladd McConkey. Like I would have been so psyched to fade Ladd McConkey, But if you can get open and do stuff that NFL teams like, then the ceiling, even if you're, and obviously with Ladd, like, any ceiling concerns have to be revised. Like this dude just had an unreal rookie season. I think the ceiling is pretty high. So, but if you go like, okay, what's his year 3 ceiling for Egbuka? Is it really that high? No, it's definitely much lower than I would say, if we're just thinking about the ranges of outcomes. It's likely to be quite a bit lower than like a Burden or a Tet McMillan. Well, that's a problem for year 3, right? What is the perception of him? What's the ceiling of his perception entering 2026? I think given that we had Zay Flowers last year going in the 3-4 turn, after his rookie season, you have Rashee Rice get a huge boost in value and then also be awesome in his second season before getting hurt. Like I think, a guy who gets open in the intermediate area, which is what he does, has a lot of value. And maybe he doesn't like fully have the highest ceiling as some of these other guys, but as long as he's not that expensive, then I think it makes sense to bet on the draft capital and bet on a skill set that should translate fairly easily.
I mean, he's probably a better pick in the big board than he is in.
If you don't have a particularly active dynasty league, then he's kind of a scary pick because it's always easy to say like, oh, draft him and then trade him after year one. But how active are you and how active is your league? Do. Yeah. It's not, if you're willing to like send a bunch of offers and you got lots of people that are active in your league, then it's great. But it's a set and forget first round rookie pick. He's not my favorite. In the big board, obviously it was just this year. Yeah, I mean he seems pretty solid to me in the 70s. I don't think he's a smash, but like he should be productive this year, I think. I mean, he's likely to go first round. And as we just discussed with Burden, there's some pretty good landing spots in that kind of 15 to 25 range. I mean, what if he were to go to Houston? 25. He goes to Houston. They let Stephon Diggs walk. Tank Dell doesn't play.
Is Houston a win? No, Houston's a win. You know what he could do? He could he could just kind of Robert Woods it around, just like tough, hard nose, always available, run blocks, does all the right things. Coach is gonna love him. 80% of the routes,
26 to the Rams. They get rid of Cooper Kupp. He's the new Robert Woods. That seems great. Robert Woods scored like 15 PPR points a game for a while. Like Robert Woods was pretty good.
Robert Woods, I mean, famously was going ahead of Cooper Kupp, the Cooper Kupp breakout year per my favorite fantasy podcast, Ship Chasing.
Unfortunately, our co-manager wanted Robert Woods there.
I think ultimately, the big issue with Egbuka for Dynasty is going to be that he's just always going to be a better real life player than fantasy player. Like, how people always say that about situational deep threats? Like, oh, he clears out the space. He's so useful for his team. Kind of your Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Remember when before Henry Ruggs went to jail? It was like, oh yeah, dude, he just clears out the space. You can't fight. He demands a safety. It's like Egbuka is going to be kind of like that, I think.
And what I mean, he's more he's the guy who benefits from a
not as a deep threat, just as like he does all the little things. It's like having another coach out there. He knows all the route combinations. Always finds the soft spot in the zone. I mean, don't get me wrong. He'll probably have some games for the Commanders or wherever where he has like, dude, holy shit, Egbuka had 12 receptions in this game or whatever. Like,
that's the thing to me is that it's hard once you say a guy can earn targets in the intermediate area, it gets hard to then say like how many targets exactly, because sometimes it's a lot depending on situation, depending on quarterback, depending on exactly how good he is. All of a sudden, it's actually a sneaky high upside skill set. To earn targets in the intermediate area is sneaky high upside.
I mean, if
he can do it
in 2015, it was like the most useless skill set to have. And in 2024, it's the best and most useful skill set to have, basically.
Yeah. Like people are saying like Khalil Shakir, yeah, sure. Like but you don't like, where on the spectrum does he end up falling and look, I mean, one of the reasons that rookies are such a good pick in the big board is that we don't know the answer to that, right? It's highly uncertain. And as long as if you have to overpay for a guy where I'm like, I don't think the ceiling's that high and we're taking him in the 4th round, I wouldn't be into that. But he's going in the 70s right now. I think it's fine. I think it's totally fine. I've been kind of breaking ties to running backs in that range in the drafts I've done, but I have no issues with his ADP at all.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's do Elic Ayomanor next. There's a huge gap, by the way, from Egbuka and Luther Burden to Elic Ayomanor.
I think it's Ayomanor.
Ayomanor?
That's what McShay said.
Gotta be honest, I have never watched a Stanford game. So
there was like a video where he pronounces his own name, and I haven't watched the video yet, but I believe it's Ayomanor.
So you might be
third hand from McShay.
might be looking at his Stanford statistics here, being like, one, why did he play 2 years? He was injured all of his freshman year, so that's why he didn't play. You might be looking at this going, this dude had 831 yards, and we're talking about him as the wide receiver 4, maybe the wide receiver 3 in the class. Well, remember that he plays for the Stanford Cardinal. They threw for 2,295 yards as a whole. His 831 yards were 300 more yards than everyone else on the team. The only I like this style of prospect. You know, he's kind of arbitrage Tet, really.
He is arbitrage Tet.
He's very arbitrage Tet, but man, I just cannot. I get like a physical aversion to watching wide receivers play in the Stanford uniform because of what JJ Arcega-Whiteside did to me. I thought JJ Arcega-Whiteside was so good. I was like, this guy. What was the stat? 16% of Arcega-Whiteside's touchdowns went for targets, or targets went for touchdowns. Just like unbelievable. And this guy's playing with a terrible running quarterback. Ashton Daniels, more interceptions than touchdowns. Like just the most brutal, frigid offense you can imagine. Also, you kind of have to wonder, how does a guy this good end up at Stanford? Like, what's the deal? Why is he at Stanford? You know, it's not like they were ever a good school when they were recruiting him. You know what it is, dude? It's because he's from Canada.
Maybe. I don't know. I've kind of struggled to see it with him. And I know that he's like kind of I don't even know. Here's part of the problem: is I don't even know he is the consensus next wide receiver after this. I think
I don't think he will be.
He's in the mix with Matthew Golden, with Isaiah Bond, with Tre Harris, and I don't like his game. It does seem it's sort of he is kind of the discount Tet. I've heard Cortland Sutton with him. He's big. Like what's the draw? And it seems to be he's big. And that's concerning to me. Like that's not enough. I don't know how athletic he is. And that's like Sutton was actually decently in the 4.5s, jumped well. And ultimately has made his money as kind of a deep threat. That's like where he's like a big body deep threat. Ayomanor also is a deep threat. 42% of his yak is on 10+ yard targets, only 7% behind the line of scrimmage. So he's like very much a downfield guy, but more so deep than intermediate. 36% of his career yards on deep targets, 25% intermediate. Has that same red flag though that I talked about with Tet and Burden, where 41% of his deep targets were contested and only a 30% contested catch rate there. Like that's a tough way. Like that's a tough profile to me. And when I look at Tet, I go, okay, hang on. A ton of his yards were actually generated in the intermediate area. And then you look at like the way people describe his game, and they're like, this dude gets open in the intermediate. He's really the quarterback's going to trust him. He's got great hands. Like, he understands like he runs a ton of option routes and like, this is like a professional route runner. I think Ayomanor is kind of more of like a deep threat. And I don't know.
Yeah.
He I think it's pretty low
winning one-on-one. I'm not really that into him. I've got him ranked below consensus in the big board. This is probably, I guess it'll be, where does he go in rookie drafts? Is he going after the running back 6 or 7 or whatever? Then I can start to see it. But I'm like, well, Devin Neal went in the 3rd round to a good offense. Maybe I just take him instead of the round 2 wide receiver guy. And the reason why it's a little bit easier to do that is I like this next guy a good bit. I think Matthew Golden is. Yeah. Matthew Golden is like, this is my type of dude. Like, went to a small school, was super productive when he was healthy, for his small school. 600 yards, 7 touchdowns as a true freshman at Houston. Let's see where
couple comps for
teammates with
before he was
Tank
born.
Dell, by the way.
Oh, interesting. Couple comps that I think kind of help illuminate like some of my concern. Brian Edwards, one of his top comps. James Washington, Leonte Carew, like these kind of like bigger outside dudes, so they don't really separate.
Not Leonte Carew, man. Not Leonte Carew.
I love Leonte Carew. Who cares that he fell to the 3rd round? He's still gonna hit.
Who cares?
That's where I'm just a little bit nervous about like the style.
I'm worried about the style. I'm reverse worried about the style for Matthew Golden. It's already out there. Brugler has put it out there. Other guys are going to put their name on it too. Eventually, someone will be brave enough to say he's better than Tet. But basically, Matthew Golden is the most 2025 NFL style wide receiver in the class. He's fast. He returned kicks and punts, which we know. I mean, this is like old RotoViz analysis, but the being a good kicker punt returner just not necessarily translates to the NFL level, but it's just indicative of yards after the catch ability that translates pretty well. Outproduced Bond, outproduced Helm, who, by the way, for the big board, I don't know if you guys have him ranked, kind of interesting. I think he could end up being kind of
Gunnar Helm.
Yeah, I think he could.
If we have him ranked yet.
He might be like it would not surprise me if Gunnar Helm goes before Harold Fannin in the actual NFL draft.
Gunnar Helm, I mean, he's in the pool for us, but I don't think he makes our rank. Yeah, he doesn't make our top 250.
You think about it, just something to chew on. Now Golden, it did injure his ankle, so he didn't play as much in the college football playoff games. He did smash Arizona State. Yeah, he got hurt against Iowa State, but crushed against Georgia, 8 for 162. But basically all of this is he's going to show up to the combine. He's going to run real fast. And he went to Texas, and the scouts say he's really good. And that is really all there is to it. Right now in the big board, you could get him, I think he's wide receiver 50. If a rookie draft was held today, he'd be a mid-second round pick. And these are I think these are pure profit positions. I think basically trading at what Matthew Golden is trading at right now, I just don't think you can lose.
I like it. I like it a lot. I mean, I think I've been taking him in the big board. He's going like around the like early 100 type of, right around 100. Golden has some holes in his profile. He does not look like a perfect prospect by any means, but
didn't break out early at all.
No, and he never really broke out at all. And kind of some gadget usage stuff, but his deep usage is pretty exciting actually. I've talked about, some of the other guys where it's like kind of a red flag, but only 36% of his deep targets were contested. 35% of his career yards were on 20-plus yard targets. He's, I think, pretty exciting in terms of the way he can be a true downfield target earner. I think that's, if you're making the bull case for Golden, it's like he's a really good route runner, is from what I understand. Like I'm not assessing the route running myself, but the eval on him is generally that he's a pretty good route runner and separator. And you watch him play and you're like, yeah, this guy can separate. The archetype of guy is someone who separates and wins in kind of a traditional way downfield. To me, the question with Golden is ultimately like, how good is he on that spectrum? Because it's a different thing than Ayomanor, where I'm like, I don't like this spectrum. Don't give me guys on this.
Even if you're the GOAT of this spectrum, I might not want to make this bet.
Yeah. This spectrum is one I want to be investing in. But when you think about where he might fall on it, he could be a Corey Coleman. He could be a Nelson Aguilar. He could be a Kadarius Toney, like one of these guys where you're like he's less gadgety than Toney, but like how actually good are you at, earning targets downfield? Are you really a difference-making NFL receiver? Because the production profile doesn't necessarily indicate that. But he's a true early declare, 3-year guy. He may go first round, and he can probably get open. So that I'm going to be in on that generally. Like I'm generally going to be in on guys who can get open with draft capital.
He's going to go in the first round. Planting the flag, putting it there. Matthew Golden's going in the first round. And where he's going to go, my friend, he's going to go to the teams where he goes in the NFL draft. It's going to be the teams you want. Look at this. Buffalo, Washington, Baltimore, Rams, Texans.
He would be really fun on the Rams. That would be a really good one.
He would be a good fit for Denver if Denver wanted to get serious about playing the guys they have. Mims, Golden.
I think the Packers would be incredible for him.
The Packers just need a wide receiver. If the Packers don't use this pick on a wide receiver, they are so unserious, just deeply unserious at every level if they don't take a wide receiver.
Outside wide receiver who can get open. Who needs that more than the Packers? Like Dontavian Wicks gets targeted nonstop. Nothing good happens after that. But
Dontavian Wicks can get open. Let it never be said that he can't get open.
He can get open.
Now, once the ball gets into his general vicinity, that's between him and God.
Well, he needs to have a conversation with God. But I think that's the type of spot where you go, oh man, he could earn a lot of targets here. I think Tampa Bay could be sneaky interesting if Godwin walks.
What is his weight? Wait, listen, 195.
I think it's like 195.
All right, what do we think he runs? Like a 4. The
4
Fox
fours.
Score Scout is backup. We think he runs we'll give him a 4.45, pick 25. I bet these are all going to be good. My guess is these are all good comps. My guess is that these are like, oh, that guy hit and that guy hit.
I think you might get some. I think there's going to be some high pedigree busts in here too. Because the production profile isn't great. I think it'll be a mix.
No, I knew it.
Oh wow, you're right. Oh,
well,
there's a mix.
No, but look, your guys too, Hunter,
Yeah.
and Rager. But I mean, look at these hits: Jefferson, Judy, Pickens, T, Macklin. So funny that Kadarius Toney is in here because I can actually totally see that. Just like really good at getting open, but
he popped as a comp for me too. Yeah,
the sustained production was just never. Because that's what you get with a lot of these, especially because wide receiver is so important in the NFL now that like guys who are not really quote unquote first round talents are just frequently going to go in the first round because teams just need the position. So you are going to get some guys where the team is like, I don't know if he does this, then it'll work out. But if he can't do it, then it won't work out. But yeah, this is about as funny of accomplice as you can get. Like the biggest possible hits. Some medium hits, right? The Judy and Pickens is like they're fine, but not great. The question marks, like, oh, what would have happened to Mechie if he didn't get literal cancer?
Yeah.
That's a good comp. That's kind of what you want a comp list to look
like. Yeah, it's a good comp list.
Yeah, if a guy is not a top 100 big board pick, if he's not a first round rookie pick, that's kind of what you want it. Because you
Macklin is also a good comp, I think, like as far as
Macklin's a really good comp.
Yeah, that's a good one.
All right. Well, we might as well do Isaiah Bond next since they were teammates. Bond, again, I think as a college football watcher, probably just going to end up being a little bit higher on than you. There's a little bit of color that needs to be added to his college numbers. The first being, I mean, he basically just played injured for the entire second half of the season for Texas. So he started out strong. He started out stronger, actually, than Golden did. And I don't remember if it was a knee or an ankle, but there's like a marked drop off in his production after he got hurt against Oklahoma. and they actually got there. And then after that, he just tailed off, just like basically went to zero. Not that it's 100% his fault or 100% you can excuse that. And then also, I mean, he played at Alabama, which normally you think, oh my God, he played at Alabama. He had to have every advantage. Keep in mind that his quarterback is Jalen Milroe. So he was dealing with some of this just brutal quarterback play. And I believe he led Alabama like considerably in raw volume. Oh, I had forgotten this. Look who outproduced it.
Yeah. Turns out that's not great.
Well,
actually.
what do you even do with that? What do you even do recontextualizing that information? What do you even do with Burton, who, if you think about it, if you're trying to be favorable to Bond, I'd put it like this. Jermaine Burton, a world-class dickhead, was a third-round pick. Everyone pretty much knew he was a dick. The Bengals spent a third-round pick at a position like they needed a wide receiver. There was rumors that they built a whole game plan around him. He doesn't show up to practice at all and then spends all night sitting in a casino playing slots. Does that mean he's really good? Or does that, like, what does that mean? I honestly don't know. I would if I had to guess, I would guess it probably means he's really good, but just is a total dick.
Like, means he's really physically talented, I think, is what you would say. Really physically talented. But the thing with Bond is that he's really physically talented as well. And then it's like a little raw.
He's gonna smoke the combine.
Yeah. But is he gonna be able to translate that to being a professional? As we just saw with Burton, it doesn't always work out. I don't know. I don't think there's any real character stuff, but with Bond, you just haven't seen him do that. Like from a, there's no season where you're like, oh man, the production really crushing. How hurt was he down the stretch this year? Because I've heard that race as a red flag that he basically almost like lost playing time. But you think it's injury related?
Well, also Texas, again, this is like more color added. So like Texas totally redid their wide receiver room year over year. So they got Bond, who transferred in, Silas Bolden transferred in from Oregon State. DeAndre Moore didn't play at all. They got a true freshman, Ryan Wingo, who they just like didn't know how good he was going to be. Turns out he was awesome. Gunnar Helm had never really played before for them. He and Amari Niblack, crazy name, Amari Niblack, transferred also from Alabama with them. So it's just, I think it was just kind of a chaotic situation. And I think those are hard spots to judge. Like, I just think the coaches might not have even known game to game, like who's better, who's playing better, who's healthier, like what's the, I think it's a hard situation to look at and be like, this guy's definitively better than this guy, and this guy definitively played because of X, Y, or Z. I don't think Bond is a bum. I definitely don't think he's a bum, but I think he could be closer to the Isaiah Bond or the Jermaine Burton spectrum than like a stud. Also, literally the first. Go ahead.
Well, in team meetings, I was wondering maybe if you could just like check his phone and just see how many gambling apps he's got.
I Googled Isaiah Bond 40 time, and the first article is he might be faster than Worthy. I don't think that's true. That seems very untrue. But if he was.
No, he's supposed to be super fast. That's what I've been a little nervous about Bond because he's supposed to be super, super fast and really athletic, and everyone's expecting that. And yet, over the last few weeks, the conversation has really been about Matthew Golden, his teammate.
Golden.
And so I'm like, man, if one of your own teammates is kind of taking the mantle from you as a potential first-round pick, like Bond, when I was first digging into this, it was sort of like Bond could maybe go first round, and now he seems more like a second-round guy. It's kind of moving in the wrong direction while his teammate moves up. So I'm like, that's a little. I think with Bond, it's hard to say anything definitively right now. I'm kind of keeping an open mind, but I'm a little nervous. We'll see how the rest of the offseason goes.
I think this is going to be a classic. I end up overweight in the big board, underweight in BBM spot for me. Because if this is true, he does run a 4-3 over. You're not going to be able to get him cheap anymore. I mean, how much did Worthy jump up after the 40 in the big board? I don't even remember. I think he jumped up like 15 positional spots. But yeah, the for the audio listeners, the comps, McCole Hardman is the second comp. Your hits would be McLaurin. Yeah, your hits would be McLaurin, I guess. Not great. Could be better. I guess not I mean, these are all guys who've had NFL careers, you know?
Yeah, you're not happy about this at all. If he turns out to be anyone but McLaurin on this list, he's a full-on bust. And I think in some ways it's a reminder of like what we're looking for in fantasy of like, we need guys who are awesome, who are like difference makers. And Bond is, you know, we talk about the spectrum of guys that they're on. This is like a kind of a low floor. He seems high ceiling because he's so athletic, but it maybe isn't that high ceiling unless he, you know, how many targets are you earning on your own? Just like, it feels like that's kind of the meta of the NFL right now. And maybe we were always a little bit too low on that. But I mean, he only 20% of his career targets were on intermediate targets. 12% of his career yak, just 12% was on 10+ yard targets. 45% came behind the line of scrimmage. He did mix in some deep targets, 33% of his career yards on deep targets. Not a lot of yak though. So that's where you go. This guy has some serious gadget player red flags. And then when you combine that with the lack of production, you know, it's definitely, as you can see here, the floor is pretty low.
I need to watch some of him. I've just watched the just bombs production highlights or whatever, but I think I need to like sit and like watch him run some routes and stuff and just get a clearer opinion.
He has fans. Like I've seen in various chats, people be like, no, he's going to be really good. I think your way of playing it is the sharpest. Like let's take a nibble while he's still in the 1 teens. That seems like a smart thing to do.
Not gonna last long. I feel very confident it's not gonna last long. Yeah. All right, you want to do Tre Harris next?
Yeah, let's do Tre Harris.
So I actually looked at him pretty close because I wrote a prospect profile on him over at patreon.com/Davis Mattek, and what a fucking whack job profile. He is just like really strange. So he like is a total nothing for 2 years at a total nothing backwater school. Mega breaks out, transfers as like the big NIL guy with Lane Kiffin, who gets Jackson Dart too. It was like a big coup to get Tre Harris. And he's like pretty good. He was injured, played through I don't remember if it was a foot injury, but a lower body injury like pretty clearly impacted him. But the weirdest thing about Tre Harris is he's just so a throwback. Yeah. He's just such a throwback to a style of football that is not really played anywhere. I mean, he kicked ass at Ole Miss. I'm not going to say he didn't. He was awesome. But I'm thinking about where is Tre Harris going to go as a rookie where he just starts to crush? Where does he go in Dynasty where I'm like, oh man, really wish I would have gotten more of this guy. But this recurred time and time again as I was reading about him and as I was watching him. He really could be Ohio State Michael Thomas because he's really good at crossers and slants. Like, go watch his Ole Miss stuff. He's the first read on like every one of those routes. And he's, for a guy as big and as slow as he is, he's actually all right with yak. Like he's not very fast.
All right. He's good. He's like really good at yak.
He
That's
also,
like one of the strengths of his game.
Where is it? I've got it in here. He has the highest yards per route run I've ever seen. It was like over 5 yards or something.
Jesus.
I need to pull up the actual number because I've got it in here. Yeah. His final season, 5.15 PFF yards per route run from Tre Harris.
I tend to mostly look at the underclassmen yards per route run because it's like you do. One of the things that I've noticed is that like you get some ridiculous yards per route run stuff by the upperclassmen. And it's like one of the ways I think they can kind of trick things is like, yeah.
But he was good the years prior.
He was
yards per route run, but he wasn't.
He never had a season below 2 yards per route run, which is good.
But I don't believe I've ever seen anyone over 4 before. I don't in my memory, I don't think I've ever seen anyone
with 1,000 yards, like 1,000 yards plus over 4 yards per route run. I don't know.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
That being said, I still kind of just don't know how good he is. Really,
I don't know how good he is too, man. But
yeah.
You know, this is like one of those. This archetype is like probably a little bit better than it seems at first. It seems like, okay, everyone, you talk to anybody, you know, who's watching him, it's like he doesn't separate. That's bad. That's pretty bad. But like,
and he's not like 225 either. He's listed at 210.
Yeah. He's 6'3", 210 on PFF. But yards after catch is really strong. Two guys that show up not as his top comps for me, but they're pretty high on the list, and stylistically they kind of click for me are Zay Jones and DJ Chark.
Could be Charky.
Both guys were absolute busts in their rookie seasons, and then went on to be productive at different times in their career. And I think that would be kind of a fitting end for him to be ultimately not a bust, but didn't quite get there. I could see it taking a minute for him to figure it out, because it's like, okay, you don't separate, so that requires trust, you know, and then the yards after catch stuff provides enough upside to where, like, if you do start earning targets, maybe you keep earning targets. But man, look at these comps; these are not good. Brandon LaFell, another Brian Edwards, Terrence Williams, another guy didn't really separate.
I think a lot of these guys are making it in because they were late declares, and he was a late declare. Like a really late declare. I don't know.
He worries me, but
I might kind of let the NFL decide this one for me.
Yeah.
He's not going to be a big target of mine in the big board. I don't think. I think
I just prefer Golden.
Yeah, we're just going to say right now he's going ahead of Golden. So
Golden has a better chance to go round 1. Not that Harris is dead to go round 1. He could go round 1, but I think Golden's got a better chance. Golden's game is like, okay, imagine that he's that Harris is Zay Jones and Golden is Nelson Aguilar. Don't you still want Golden? You know, like, give me the guy. Like, he's the type of receiver where you're like, this dude wasn't very good, but I kind of still got there a little at one. Yes. At pick 100. I was still okay. Harris is a more boom bust, I think. Someone was saying he could go for like 40, and I do think he has a higher ceiling. He's got a pretty high ceiling.
Where do you want Harris to go in the NFL draft? Like, what team do you want to take this archetype of guy? Maybe Indianapolis, maybe. Trying to think of a big, like, Michael Pittman Jr., but like new.
I wouldn't mind if he went to the Bills, you know.
Bills. Enough guys who are not fast on the Bills. Enough of slow guys on the Bills.
Rams.
Jags are actually
Jags
Jags are now the new lotto spot. Any rookie you like, great fit Jaguars.
Great fit
just because they have Liam Cohen.
Broncos would be okay. He likes his big guys.
Slant boy. Okay, there you go. If Tre Harris goes to Ohio State, if he goes to Denver to go be Ohio State Michael Thomas, which, by the way, a lot of you probably have not been playing fantasy football long enough to even remember this, but the year Saints Michael Thomas was drafted, there was a University of Southern Mississippi wide receiver named Michael Thomas who was better in college than Ohio State Michael Thomas, and we called the bad Michael Thomas good Michael Thomas, and good Michael Thomas, bad Michael Thomas. The bad Michael Thomas ended up being like a 5th round pick to the Rams.
The good Michael Thomas in our minds had to change his name to Mike, which gives you a clue that he in fact was not the good Michael Thomas. You know what would be the most fitting destination and outcome? If he goes to the Bengals to be the new T. Higgins, but busts as hard as Treylon Burks did when he was supposed to be the new A.J. Brown.
That would be really good. That's poetic. All right, let's do Savion Williams real quick. So
at some point we should do Travis Hunter as a wide receiver.
Well, okay, let's just do Travis Hunter real quick. If Travis Hunter was a wide receiver, to me, I just watched a lot of him play. I think he's better than Tet. I think he's a better wide receiver than Tet. I think he's got way better ball skills. I think if he gained 10 pounds because he wasn't playing cornerback, I think he would be even better. He's like unbelievable. He's unbelievable after the catch. He's got crazy hands. I think he would just so clearly be awesome at it. Maybe he wouldn't be Brian Thomas Jr.-esque. Maybe he would be, honestly, be that good. I mean,
it's more Garrett Wilson, isn't it? That kind of vibe?
I'm just thinking in terms of like rookie year production, like how much could he produce as a rookie?
Yeah.
Yeah. I would still take Gene T 101 even over Hunter, I think. But
Me too.
Yeah. Well, here's an even better question. How are you treating Hunter in rookie drafts, assuming what we know now? He's going to play both.
There's safety in his talent. Like, he's going to be in the NFL for a long time, and maybe he develops a bigger wide receiver role over that time, even if it doesn't start out that way. And so once you start getting to just like pure, I don't know, like what this dude even is, I think I would go ahead and take him. But that's probably not until the second round of rookie drafts. I don't know. I mean, the most likely outcome is that he is not going to produce very much. He's not going to be startable. It would be different too. Like if he was on, is it a best ball dynasty? Because I'm more interested. But if I have to predict when Travis Hunter is going to score points,
that's such a good point. Yeah, having to be like, I'm putting him in my lineup this week.
It's going to be tough, and his trade value could just be terrible pretty quickly because people are like, he's a cornerback, dude. I'm not trading you anything for a cornerback. So I think it has to be cheap so that, you can talk yourself into the upside scenarios. But yeah.
I don't even remember the comps for him. I don't think they were great. He did get a lot of yards, though. God damn, bro. That is crazy. It is so crazy to have a 35% market share while also being like the second best cornerback in college football.
It honestly is crazy. Yeah, let's give him like the 10th.
I was going to say, let's make it like he's a wide receiver. 185. Okay. I think he's going to run. I think he's going to run very fast. He's not going to run, but I think he is very fast.
Me too.
I bet the comps will be pretty good.
Me too. But yeah, early declare, true breakout.
God damn, man. Yeah. We were trying to figure this out yesterday in the stream. If he gets a pick
Brandon Cooks.
six, CeeDee Lamb, Calvin Ridley.
Yeah.
And then some busts in there, Justin Hunter. Yeah, there you go.
Brandon Cooks used to be pretty productive. That's a good comp. He's taller, but I think the weight is probably pulling that in. Yeah, because Cooks is only 189.
If we were trying to figure this out yesterday, if he gets a pick 6 on defense in the big board, do you get 6 points? Because fumble recoveries count. If you Trey McBride recovered a fumble, whatever, he got the touchdown. But if he's on defense, intercepts a pass, returns it for a touchdown, do you get 6 points for Travis Hunter, the wide receiver?
I don't think you would. You should. I don't think the way
it's not the rules are functionally from NFL scoring, it is not any different than a punt return.
No, it's not.
We need answers.
We do. We need answers.
I'm gonna tweet at Underdog right now. Yeah. I'm taking Travis Hunter a lot in the big board at wide receiver 73. Once he gets to like wide receiver 58, not going to be able to go on that ride with him, sadly.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it has to be cheap. Once it's cheap, I'm in. As soon as it's not cheap, it's like, this guy might be a cornerback, guys.
Here's a guy I'm going to be a dumb simp for. Savion Williams. He is probably going to be what's his mock draft database? It can't be very high, right?
He's right around pick 100, I think. No, 68, a little higher than I thought.
That is crazy that this production profile would be. The NFL must just know he's gonna be crazy athletic. Here's your guy who shows up to the combine, posts a 9.8 RAS just out of nowhere because he is gonna be huge. His jumps are going to be high, but man, does this feel very Laviska Shenault, McCole Hardman, Dexter McCluster. Amari Rodgers is actually, when I was writing it up, that was the comp I found where it was like, he's really good with the ball in his hands, but he doesn't have the right body type to be a running back. So he never gets transferred to be a running back. And so basically he's just positionless.
His second comp is the wrong Jennings.
Yes.
I thought we were going to get Greg Little, but I don't see him here now.
Yeah.
Isn't he kind of Greg Little-y?
I mean, he's just huge. He's a giant guy. When you watch him, he looks like this is the comp of it working out. It's the comp of him working out.
Chris, wake up, babe. New biscuit dropped.
Wake up, babe. New biscuit just dropped. I mean, now different NFL, right? Different style of league. We see wide receivers get rushes all the time. Worthy got a lot of rushes. Dallas Goedert was getting rush attempts yesterday. Like, wide receivers get rushes now, and you can there's kind of room in a lot of these West Coast style offenses for a guy who only plays about half the snaps, gets some rushes, gets some targets. He's a high targets per route run guy. That guy is often very overrated for fantasy because they don't get there in raw volume. It's just so hard on gadget touches to get there. And I really like Savion Williams. He's probably weirdly a guy that is like a really ideal use of a 4th round rookie pick because you could just cut him immediately. Like, dude, if he's a 6th round pick to the Jets, you could cut him before the draft is over. Like, before the NFL draft is over, you could be like, all right, well, moving on there. We took a swing. It didn't work out, and I will be replacing him. But if he's a 3rd round pick to the Bills what if he's a 49er? What about a 225-pound guy who was a hybrid running back wide receiver in college as a 49er? That's pretty appealing.
It's appealing. I think the issue with him is that he almost has to be a 49er. Like, we haven't seen this archetype work outside of like Debo. And you look at where his
Green Bay,
but they got Reed.
I think this is justifiable. Like, he is insanely athletic. It's a weak class.
Right.
He was good with the ball in his hands, and he caught deep passes. So a lot of times these gadget guys suck at deep throws, but he was good at deep throws too.
He was okay. I mean, 26% of his career yards on deep targets, which isn't nothing, but it's not great. 35% on short targets, 0 to 10 yards, 11% behind the line of scrimmage, 39% of his career yak behind the line of scrimmage. He had a really good contested catch rate on deep targets. So to your point, he's not nothing there. But I made this argument with Visca, like, hey, he was actually pretty good on the deep stuff. But the usage points here to a guy who's mostly going to be used on shallow.
Yeah, but like, imagine these guys if they were good.
Jalen Hurd.
Imagine these guys, but if they were good. Because Jalen Hurd and Velus Jones and other guys of these archetypes, they did not show up to the combine and smash. But this guy's going to show up to the combine and smash. Like, he's going to...
His career market share yards is 14%. Career dominated rating is 15%. Like,
he was playing the wrong position, dude.
I guess, but I'd so much rather have a wide receiver convert to running back than a running back be converting to receiver.
Why are these guys not good? Well, that's actually, honestly, that is like a very interesting question. Like, why are these guys who are so good with the ball in their hands not good NFL players? That actually is like,
it's hard to get open.
It's hard to get
getting open is the skill.
Is the hard part.
Yeah. Getting open is hard. If you can get open, I'm interested. That's like probably the biggest thing it's embarrassing that I've had to learn it, but it's like you get all excited about these guys who are really productive and, they're coming young and they're athletic and it's like they're so good after the catch. But like just getting open. Can you get open? Is such a big part of, this is the thing with Ladd last year. I was like, he had a million holes in his profile, but his yards per route run were awesome. And every single person who broke down his tape was like, this guy gets open like it's nothing. I'm like, great. I'm not betting against that.
Yeah.
It takes more convincing to bet on the guys who, hey man, you can use this guy in so many different ways. A good offense coordinator is going to find a way to use this guy. He's incredible after the catch. Everyone's going to want Malachi Corley. Savion Williams. Everyone's going to want Savion. It's just, it burns you. It burns you sometimes.
Corley is a good lesson. Yeah. Corley was the most gadget ass dude to ever get.
And much more productive.
It's like 54. I believe Reeves' stat was 54% of his yards came on screens.
Yeah, that's rough, man.
I mean, that's unbelievable. Savion was never a quarterback. He just didn't play. All right.
I'm not like out on Savion, but I haven't really seen him in the big board yet. So
he's just, I was going to say, he's not a big board. He is like if it works out for him, it's going to work out for him like weirdly in like year 3. Like in year 3, he's going to like show up on the Steelers and be good.
Tim says Savion on the Bears. That would
I
would
like
intrigue
that.
me. That would intrigue me. But I think to your point, Davis, like we would be bummed out because we're like, hang on, in best ball, because you're like, Amon-Ra's there, Laporta's there, Jameson's there. Like, wait, now I'm thinking of the Lions. Oh my God, I thought Ben Johnson and then went to the Lions. Okay, so let me reorient myself. Ben Johnson's on the Bears. Got DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, Savion Williams. Yeah, I'm kind of into it. I'm into it. On the Lions,
it's
not
like
so much.
I think he'll be a good pick for whatever NFL team takes him. I think he'll good. He'll contribute. He'll get some yards. There'll be one really cool. He was a high school quarterback. Sir, Mr. Huhan.
The Bears would actually be pretty interesting too, because they like the last time Ben Johnson had DeAndre Swift, he was like, please leave. And so maybe you get like
he was like, get out of here, bro.
Get out of here. Maybe you get like some legit running back usage, some of the out of the backfield stuff. So yeah, there are spots. Like I said, it was just the 49ers. It's probably a couple spots where you actually be pretty excited about them. But to go back to the Lions point, like if a team like the Lions drafted him, or where you're like generally intrigued by the offense, we'd be so sad for best ball. But he could emerge down the line. I think a better 4th round rookie pick, to your point, than best ball.
All right, here's a guy who I will probably take 0 of in the big board. Tez Johnson. Tez Johnson got dominated. He got dominated by Troy Franklin at Oregon. Like, actually not close how much better Troy Franklin was than him. And Tez Johnson is just like shitty Troy Franklin. Like, skinny, waited until year 5 really to break out. He's like Bo Nix's parents like adopted Tez Johnson. And even then he was like, I'd still rather throw to Troy Franklin, bro.
They just they arrive in like the same car, like they're just kind of quiet in the car, and then they get out, and like Bo just like goes over to Troy Franklin's like, "What's up, man?" Tez is just feeling all left out.
That's real, dude. It's real. Yes, it's his adopted brother. I mean, can you imagine playing with your literal adopted brother? And he's like, dude, but Troy's always open.
Yeah.
I don't think Troy Franklin is bad, but Troy Franklin has the same issue, which is he's not quite fast enough to be playing in the National Football League at 170 pounds, you know?
Yeah.
Look at these comps, dude. You are not going to find a more desolate, brutal comp list than Titus Young, Dante Pettis, Travis Benjamin, Tyquan Thornton.
Well, I don't think those comps.
Does he show up better in your stuff?
Not really. Let's see. He shows up as a 3rd round rookie pick, and let me check the other one. I think he's probably a 3rd round rookie pick there too. He's a 3rd round rookie pick. Yeah. One of the issues is that he's 160 pounds. 160 pounds. So that's a problem. But he was really good after the catch. So I don't think, like, as we're talking stylistically, a Tyquan Thornton, a Dante Pettis, like, that's not really who he is. Marcus Wheaton, Philip Dorsett, that's not really who he is. I think you're thinking of him as more of like a Tank Dell. That would be like your hope.
Yeah.
He's got his fans. People, there's I've heard some people just talking about
everyone. That's the thing. Everyone's gonna have their fans though. Like, this is just the nature. Like, someone's gonna come in and be like, dude, you don't know about Ricky White, brother. Ricky White to the moon.
Pat Bryant,
like, bro. Nick Nash.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, Nick Nash, bro.
Tez Johnson, he had 44% of his career yak behind the line of scrimmage, 19% of his total yards behind the line of scrimmage, but he was really, really good after the catch. So he's one of these guys where you don't have the size, that you have. You might have the athleticism, but you're not going to have the size of like a Savion Williams or something. But it's kind of gadgety. But maybe he's like your super discount and lightweight Luther Burden or something. Is that fair?
Look, I remain open and enthusiastic and intrigued about all things until proven wrong. I'm probably going to have very, very little of Tez Johnson in the big board.
He goes in the 20th. That's why I've taken him. He goes in the 20th. This is a tough class to find.
I'm slapping Torrey Horton in the 20th.
Okay.
I think.
Okay. All right. There's not a ton of guys I've been super intrigued by in the 20th, and I'm like, Tez Johnson is. I think he can he was like a good college player. That's what the thing to hang your hat on is like he was, I think, actually pretty good. Will it translate? Almost certainly not. He's 160 pounds, but Tank Dell, we've seen. I mean, frankly, even Tutu Atwell, like it eventually kind of translated.
Tutu Atwell did kind of hit, yeah.
Yeah, these guys are limited. This is like truly a low ceilings type of guy, but I mean.
All right, dude. I'm staying woke. I think I just got reconverted a little bit.
Alvin Austin is another
Well,
God, I mean,
here's
yeah.
the thing why I wouldn't take Calvin Austin. I've seen the thesis play out, and Calvin Austin can't matter for fantasy football even when everyone else on his team is in the infirmary.
Yeah.
Like Tez hasn't let me down yet. He's not
Right.
proven that yet. Okay. I like I've been taking a bit of this guy. It's Tai Felton. It's probably Tai Felton.
I think
Is it Tate?
I was assuming Ty, but I'm not sure.
I think it's probably Tai. So the thing I like about him is the mock draft industrial complex is higher on him
Mhm.
than the big board drafters seem to
Mhm.
be. And that is just always sort of interesting. Yeah, we'll do Jalen Royals next.
He's like a fourth round rookie pick type to me. He could go. He's probably going to go third round if he goes day 2. Not second round would be my guess, but it's early. Mock draft database has him 109th right now, so it's possible he's day 3. And as a day 3 guy, I basically would have.
I mean,
close to no interest.
the range of outcomes on day 3 guys though is so funny. Like you can get Jalen McMillan or you can get Malachi Corley, and it's just, what do you do? What do you do? It's very.
Was McMillan a third round? I think he was third.
That's what I'm saying. That's what.
Oh,
yes. Well,
day 3 is rough for receivers.
Depending on comp picks, 109 can be a day 2 pick.
Can be a day 2. Yeah. Yeah. But I mean,
thank you to the 49ers and the Ravens.
You got Amon-Ra, you got Diggs, you got Puka. So we don't want to completely write off day 3, but that's where I think you want to be, knowing you're in a situation where a guy has a role, like a path to a role quickly. Because it can just be nothing. Shakir, although Shakir wasn't anything for a while.
He scored.
Shakir
scored like 7 touchdowns as a rookie.
Did he? Okay.
On like really limited snaps. He was blocked by, I don't know, whatever shit ass receiver the Bills. I think
Cole Beasley.
No, the guy after. Well, now I gotta go look it up.
Yeah, who was it after Beasley?
It was like legit someone. No, it was legit someone.
Crowder? Was it Crowder? McKenzie.
Yeah, 2022 Buffalo Bills. He was indeed blocked by Isaiah McKenzie.
Yeah.
The Bills are so deeply unserious, bro. I don't even feel bad for them.
Wait, he only had 1 touchdown, by the way.
Maybe it was year 2. It was year 2.
Yeah. He didn't do anything as a rookie, but
he didn't really do anything as a second-year player either.
Yeah.
So I'm bullshitting.
That's where the it's a reality check though with some of these guys. Like so many of these guys who go on to be pretty solid, it takes a minute. It takes a couple years. So yeah, with this class, I'm sprinkling in some of these guys. But once you get
there are so many guys like this who are just destined for zero. Just absolute zero.
It's really, to me, I'm like, Tet, I'm willing to pay a premium on. Burden, where he's going right now, I think is fine. Egbuka, where he's going now, I think is fine. Golden, I'm already actually kind of shaky. This is a guy who wasn't productive and probably goes second round, not first, and could easily be like a flame out kind of, Marquise Lee, Nelson Aguilar, whatever. Doesn't really do anything. I'm intrigued by him though, and so I am taking him around pick 100. And then after that, it's like every single one of these guys could basically turn in like 10 receptions as a rookie. Like that's all the floor. The floor is very low.
I think Restrepo actually might be one of the high floor guys. He's gonna come in immediately as he's arbitrage Egbuka.
Yeah. And he strikes me, if we're doing one-to-one comps to last year, he's this year's Ricky Pearsall. It's kind of the vibe I get.
I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah.
And it does. The ball knowers do love Restrepo. He gets a lot of love, and the ball knowers loved Ricky Pearsall. I think with Pearsall, he lands in a tough situation. He gets shot. There's the slow start.
Literally got shot.
But then he came into his own down the stretch, and I think you see like the ability to get open in the intermediate area is important. You know, if you can do that, it can take you a long way. And that was Pearsall, another guy like 5 years ago I'd have been completely out on, and I'm like, he gets open in the intermediate area. That's you put him in a good West Coast offense and he gets open intermediate, he's going to be good. You know, or at least he's going to be good enough for best ball. Restrepo is a very similar type of guy where 36% of his career yards were on intermediate throws, 33% on deep targets. Only 22% of his career deep targets were contested. So, you know, kind of hinting at separation there. Also had a really nice contested catch rate of 55% on deep targets. 42% of his career yak was on 10-plus yard targets. So stylistically, like the way this guy wins, on paper, you're like, this is the NFL profile right now. This guy gets open, downfield, adds after the catch. Beautiful. Like that's great. I've got no issues there. What I do have some concerns about is kind of the bigger picture. Like, he is a fifth-year player. He wasn't particularly productive. 24% career yardage share, 23% dominator rating. The underclassmen stuff wasn't that impressive.
Didn't start to super smash until he played with a Heisman Trophy candidate quarterback.
In his fourth season. So he already could have declared by the time he's actually producing impressively. To me, I used to be kind of overly pessimistic on this profile. I think, give me the draft capital and I'm back in. Give me a reason to overlook some of this stuff.
Could be Rashee Rice.
Could
definitely be Rashee Rice.
Yeah, but I don't right now, and I know the ball knowers love him, and he definitely has fans, as to your point, as everyone does right now. But he's 66th on mock draft data. I would really like him to go second round. That's where you start to go, okay, maybe he's Rashee. Sterling Shepard's another interesting comp, and another guy who's like, this dude is a good route runner. He's going to get open. Egbuka being on there is kind of funny.
Yeah, it is. Jalen Royals. Everyone wants us to talk about Jalen Royals. Feels like right now he just seems like a little bit expensive. He played at Georgia Military, which I didn't even really know was a thing. Then he transferred to Utah State. He did make the Blitnikoff watch list as a non-Power 5 school, which is kind of tough. He seems like he's going to be really fast. He's probably going to be a day 3 pick, which is tough. I don't know. I believe his base ADP right now is like 136 or whatever, which feels really... That feels rich to me. I probably am, again, not huge on Royals. I don't know, unless we get a drum beat. If the drum beat starts to be good. But what do you have on Jalen Royals?
Jalen Royals is also not someone I'm that into. Strikes me as like he's got this like combo of usage that I think is better for college than the NFL, where like he had a bunch of behind the line of scrimmage usage, 16% of his career yards there, 43% of his yak, and then deep stuff. So 39% of his career yards on 20-plus yard targets. And that's like way more of a college type of like, let's get you the ball shallow. Let's like chuck it to you deep. That's not really where the NFL is at right now. Only 17% of his career yards were in the intermediate area. And so I'm kind of worried about him being like a gadget player / like go route guy, just take the top off. Doesn't rate super well for me either in terms of the production and everything. So, I mean, I don't want to like be overly definitive right now, because he actually wasn't an early declare either, because you're right, he transferred from JUCO.
Yeah, not an early declare.
Not an early declare. So yeah, he's
some great names from moments past. Who amongst us did not overdraft Chris Givens and DeAndre Smelter in mini formats? Elijah Arroyo is a tight end, brother, and I am sleeping. I'm fully asleep on him. I don't think he's very good. It is what it is. I like Torrey Horton, and I like Jack Bech. I think these are Bech in particular. I think might be a guy who could impact year one.
I haven't done a ton of work on Bech. What do you like about him?
Well, he's like kind of like a burly, intermediate white guy, but he just like showed up. I honestly don't know anything about him, why he didn't play at LSU or tight end. And then he just shows up at TCU and just smashes. Like, I don't know. I literally, I guess I need to like actually like read like an interview with him or something. I wonder if maybe he changed positions or something. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but and he was like good too at TCU. Like this is not like fake production. Like this is like intermediate down the field. Like, yes, that's what it was. That was ringing a bell in my head for some reason. I think he's big. I want to say he weighs like 240 or something. I guess he's only listed at 215, which is still pretty big. Let's give him 90, 215, and a 4.5. There we go. Okay, I knew I wasn't crazy. That name was ringing a bell for me. He was a tight end at LSU, which is normally it goes the other way. Guys convert from wide receiver to tight end because they can't play. So maybe it's a little bit of a bowl to go from tight end to wide receiver because you're like, oh, well, he actually can just really play. But I like him in round 20. I mean, some of these games in 2024 were and he got hurt at the end. He got injured in this Cincinnati game, I remember. But I like him. I thought he was pretty strong. I'm assuming he's going to look miserable from your stuff because his career numbers. Yeah, his career numbers are terrible.
Yeah.
The Ohio State or the Iowa State guys. Also, that's
what I was going to bring up. Yeah.
Yeah, he was competing with Brian Thomas Jr. and Neighbors for targets at LSU. So,
and if he was playing tight end, his route tree was probably not doing him a ton of favors.
Yeah, the Iowa State guys. What do you got there?
Yeah, I'm into Jayden Higgins. Another guy you look.
I can't remember. Is he the big one or is
he's
Noel
the bigger
big
one?
Yeah,
no, he's the bigger one. He's the Jordan Matthews type. He's kind of Jordan Matthews-y. But he wins short and intermediate. 1% of his career yards behind the line of scrimmage, which I think is almost a red flag at that point because they're like, well, they don't really think he's an athlete. They're not trying to get this guy. They're not getting the ball in his hands and getting him going. But he had 39% of his career yards, 10 to 19 yards downfield, 33% on short targets. I think kind of a possession receiver type. He's been mock draft database, kind of has him in the 3rd round range. He's 78th there now. I think a guy who could help us out in half point PPR, full point PPR, get us some receptions, do a thing the NFL values, get open in the intermediate area as a 3rd rounder, and he goes late. Like he's not expensive at all. He's someone I've drafted a decent amount of. As I was kind of sort of like figuring out where exactly to take Travis Hunter. Then so I was like, do I want the upside of a Travis Hunter or kind of just like, hey, this guy might catch passes, Jayden Higgins. And that's sometimes I took Hunter and sometimes I took Higgins, kind of depending on the team. Paul says he got good measurables at the Senior Bowl. Let's pull that up.
All right. Jayden Higgins, Senior Bowl.
I think Senior Bowl weigh-in will get you what you want.
6'4", 215.
Okay.
6'4", 215. Not nothing.
Not nothing.
Let's give him 90, 215, and I'll charitably say that he ran a 4.5, which he probably didn't and won't. There you go.
These little baby hands, though, of 9 inches.
So sharp. Higgins drafted by the Bengals. Owner Give him the same number. You don't even have to reprint jerseys. Classic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's 217 is what it has here. That's 6'3".
Hakeem Butler. Who could
6'8".
forget?
Hakeem Butler, yeah. Ruben Randall is honestly a very fair comp.
Honestly, a hit. How's Godwin popping up in here? Huh.
I mean, because he might be okay. He might be okay.
That's literally all I needed. That's literally all I needed to start.
Torrey Smith is kind of nice.
Torrey Smith is kind of nice. Yeah.
He's sort of your discount, maybe discount Tet, maybe discount Elic.
I think, yeah, he's your discount, maybe even discount Tre Harris, actually. Just a bigger bodied guy who can just catch some passes.
I do love the arbitrage game because like eventually you just like get down to us. You know?
It's like, dude, if you think about it, Ricky White is arbitrage Jalen Royals, and Jalen Royals is arbitrage. There's not really a guy like that in this class. Arbitrage Isaiah Bond. Then if you think about it,
eventually you get to like the fastest guy in like your rec soccer league.
Yeah. It's close enough, Yeah. It's close enough. All right. Is there anyone else? I guess I actually did want to mention Ricky White because he was just like very productive, and I don't even know what it means. And he played at UNLV, so again, literally, who knows what that is? Ever since Tank Dell, I just want to be more woke to these guys who just put up absolutely fucking absurd numbers in college, and then like basically guys who I played a ton in college football DFS, and then just immediately wrote them off because they weren't fast enough, or they were a day 3 pick, or they transferred to a weird school or whatever. But this dude in back-to-back seasons, well, with not being a touchdowns merchant, 46%, 47% dominator ratings on over 14 yards per reception. Was a Michigan State transfer. I have no idea why he would have transferred. That's always interesting when like a highly recruited guy transfers to a smaller school. Normally you'd kind of want it to go the other way.
You know who did that? Javon Baker.
Oh God. Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did.
Yep.
Although people are saying maybe Javon Baker will end up being a better pick than
are they? Who's saying
Polk.
Is it Javon Baker?
At least he costs less, brother.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, he's an overwhelming favorite to be a better pick than Polk, just based on what he cost.
True. All right, let's give Ricky a 4.45, which is what Google tells me he's gonna run, which actually seems believable from watching him play. Yeah, that's a Tylan Wallace ass profile.
Yeah.
Hey, Tyler Johnson, Lockett, Diggs, Golden Tate, Mario Manningham, some hits there for sure.
Honestly, you'd be happy with Chris Gibbons. He had like a moment of relevance, right? On the Rams.
These are like for the Rams. These are like actually very strong comps.
These are very strong comps for the level of draft capital. These are like. What'd you give them? Like 110? Yeah, these are pretty good comps, man.
These are really good. These are like
Emmanuel Sanders. You didn't even highlight, but good God, that's a good
these are all guys. Well, because he just was so productive, dude.
Right.
There just are not many guys who. I mean, even as a freshman in 3 games at Michigan State in the COVID year, 10 for 223 and 1. I mean, that's not nothing in 3 games in a COVID year. He's got to be old. This is the deal. I bet he's 24 because there's a missing year in there.
Huh.
No, he's only 22. He decided to transfer. Doesn't say. Oh, in 2021, White just didn't play for Michigan State. So what I need a Sparty fan to tell me what's happening here. That sounds weird. Like something is going on. Also, I'm just on his Wikipedia page right now, and it looks like he led the country in punt blocks. It looks like he got 4 punt blocks. Is that true?
That's
Ricky White punt blocks. Yes. No, it's true. He blocked 4 punts.
Huh.
I mean, well, there you go.
There's a roll.
No, Kerrane, I was going to say that's our favorite thing to say when we're talking about these shitty edge players is, well, they're going to be active on game day for special teams, dude.
He will. He will.
Well,
it's a bit that's real.
Us,
it's a bit that's 100% real.
It led us to one of our biggest guys who was free hits of all time, Pacheco. Yeah, because Pacheco. we realized he was going to be active. All right. Let's pull up. Maybe this will be helpful. Let me pull up Ricky White's PFF grades. That maybe some information will be shed there. Because it's not like I watched a ton of UNLV. I did watch some actually because they had a running quarterback. All right, Ricky White, 82 receiving grade, 90.5 receiving grade the year before. We'll view it in premium stats. I think I just talked myself into a new guy in round 3.
Yeah. I mean, if he gets the draft capital, like 3rd round draft capital, I'd be intrigued.
3.22 yards per route run final season. You say you like to look at mostly underclass. 4 yards per route run as a junior.
All right.
There's your ship chasing clip, guys. We did it.
Where are you at on Torrey Horton?
Yeah, Torrey Horton I like a lot. Torrey Horton, very, very similar to Ricky White. He's just a big fish in about the smallest possible pond. 2.74 yards per route run. Just if I had to guess, which is what I'm doing here, I would guess like no one else on Colorado State had more than like 1.2 yards per route run. They're like pathetic bad.
That is something I look at, by the way, is the difference between them and like their typical teammates. Because yards per route run gets like inflated. Like sometimes like everyone's got really high yards per route run, or kind of like a bunch of jokers have just like pretty good yards per route run. And it's like, yeah, you had good yards per route run, but as part of this system, it's nice to see when the guys are like, wow, you're really efficient and no one else on your team was really efficient. That's probably because you're good.
Who is Jay Norvell? Is that a guy? Should we know? Should we know who that is? That was his college coach. Ricky White is going to be the ship chasing guy. Keep in mind, I was dead ass right about this last year. Well, first I thought it was Corley last year, and then I realized no, it's definitely McMillan. All right, let's look at 2024 Colorado State. He was injured. He only played 6 games, but no one else on the team had more than 400 yards. The year before, 2023, Dallin Holker, who actually made the Saints. It's got to be, yeah, he had to have been the only one who was even close on yards per route run. I don't think Andrew Armstrong is an NFL player.
Yeah.
The Arkansas guy.
Yeah.
That feels, I think it's
his mock draft database has him in the 200s as well. I thought about bringing him up, but I was like, yeah, I don't know. You know, Horton is kind of like a little bit your discount Jalen Royals. They have pretty similar profiles in a lot of ways. And I was probably a little too harsh on Royals in terms of like the overall outlook, because he was quite productive. It's kind of more the style that concerns me. But Horton has the same thing where he's like, a lot of his usage was deep. So 41% of his career yards came on on 20+ yard targets, deep targets. But then he also had 37% of his career yak on behind the line of scrimmage targets. So it's the same deal. Like you're looking at a guy who's going to be a bit of a deep threat, and then a bit, maybe let's get the ball in his hands somehow, which is very similar to Royals, but he's less expensive. And ultimately, I think the strength of the bet is pretty similar. So he's someone I'm kind of intrigued by. I think maybe not like. Let's see. We might need to raise him in the rankings because I don't think we have him very high.
Horton could be like a totally random. Who is this guy? I don't know who this guy is. Oh my God. He just got drafted in the 3rd round by the Cowboys type guy.
Yeah.
2.77.
Wait, did he go back?
Like a non-early declare?
No, like is he returning to Oregon? Yeah, or Colorado State, not Oregon. Sorry. I think he's not.
He had a season-ending knee surgery, so I don't think so.
Okay.
Torrey Horton, NFL draft.
No, I got him confused for a second. I got nervous.
No, I think he's good.
Okay.
I think that would that be run bad? You drafted a guy. You drafted a guy in the big board who just went back to school.
Paulina said he declared. Okay, good. There's a couple guys. Jalen Ott return. There's like a few dudes.
Jayden Ott.
Jayden Ott. My bad.
He was supposed to be really good. And then like the whole team just went to absolute zero. By the way, this is just very funny that this guy, Nick Nash, I just like old me would have been so into this guy.
I don't think he's in the player pool for the big board though.
No, he's got to be.
That's right. That's why I was like, because I was looking for him. I was like, we don't have him in our ranks, and then I don't see him.
Come on, man.
Double check. He's actually in the big board.
I'm looking in the ranks. No, he's there.
He is? Okay. I've got some kind of error.
He's the wide receiver.
Oh, he is. Okay, good.
He's the wide receiver 128.
All right.
Horton is this year's Jalen Coker. You know what? I don't think he is. I think Nick Nash is this. Maybe not Coker is the right comp. Nick Nash is going to have like a 9 reception game for someone. He just is. Some guys are just good football players, man. And Nick Nash is a good football player.
Tell me more about Nick Nash. I haven't done a ton of work on him.
Oh, he's 1 billion years old. He absolutely killed. He converted from quarterback. So he's a converted. He's a converted kind of like Luke McCaffrey. But if Luke McCaffrey actually generated a bunch of insanely good statistics instead of, well, if you actually look at Luke from a certain style, he just was learning the position. Like no, like Nick Nash converted and then immediately started to pile up like actually absurd numbers. So he doesn't really start playing the position until 2023. Like he had some of it here, but he's playing quarterback here. 40, 65 rush attempts.
All right, and then 32%, 40. Good. Wow. Right.
Yeah, but I mean, keep in mind, he is like literally, he's like 1 billion years old at this point. But he, like, people thought that he should have won the Blitnikoff this year. Like, people were actually mad that he didn't win it when Hunter won it. I mean, like, for example, 9 for 126 and 1 against Boise, being like he was playing at San Jose State. This is one of the 5 worst teams probably in FBS. 6 for 161 and 1 against Oregon State, 10 for 98 and 1 on 17. And he just like also was just racking up insane volume. If he can just be like, if he can have a good Senior Bowl, have a good combine, interview well, I can see him being the type of guy that some coach is going to be like, gotta have it.
Yeah.
Gotta have it. I gotta have him. Now he could also be like a million other guys like this in the past and go undrafted. And then you're stoked to play him in XFL.
I think you just described Devon Bailey.
Sure. He could
another billion years old guy.
He could be really Vele where the coach just fell in love with him.
Yeah. They cut Tim Patrick for Vele.
Yeah. No, Preston Williams was actually good. He was just a dick. Remember Preston Williams?
Well, he tore his knee, right? After his rookie season?
Yeah.
Am I thinking of the right guy?
You know Miami? What? Now it's been so long I forget. It's actually we are
Who's
starting.
the UDFA? Who I know, dude.
We're losing recipes, man.
Remember that guy is taking on a new meaning because we might not.
Because we're actually trying to learn. Preston Williams, Colorado State. Did he tear his knee or did he just wash out?
I thought he tore his knee after his rookie season.
Someone will know.
Someone who's the UDFA for Miami that was good as a rookie and then tore.
It's probably this guy. It's probably this guy. And he reinvented himself. He is currently playing for the Montreal Alouettes in the Canadian Football League. Yep. Williams did tear his ACL as a rookie.
Okay.
So turns out
I still do. I still got it, Davis. I still remembered. I had no confidence that I was correctly remembering.
No. Dion Burks is a weird one. So he was awful. He actually transferred to my favorite school, Oklahoma, as a senior. He was the what's the right way to explain this? Who was Greg Dortch Purdue? Who was the Purdue guy who had 1 billion yards? Rondale Moore. Rondale Moore was. Yeah. He had the Rondale Moore role as a junior. 36% dominator rating at Purdue, transfers to Oklahoma, gets hurt. Oklahoma's terrible. If he gets any draft capital, maybe you'd be a little interested in him. Wow, I'm almost forgetting Rondale. That's guys. That's where we're at. That's where
Davis,
we're at.
That's a true. That's a true. Why is that?
Yeah,
it's not a fun one.
And he's like a bigger version of it. So he's 5'9", 194, and he was pretty good actually when he played a little bit at Oklahoma. But again, he just got immediately hurt. I wonder if he's a guy who could actually have a good combine because he's going to run pretty well. I think he'll probably run. He might even run a 4.3 something. Yeah, it'll be. I could see him. He also made the freaks list, the Bruce Feldman freaks list. I could see. I'm probably not a big board guy, but
that's where because I've got him plugged in at 180. Pick 180 comes out as a flyer, which is the lowest tier I have in here. So just but if you give. The thing with receiver is that so few of them hit from day 3, and the ones who hit in day 3, like most of the time, have really intriguing profiles. And it's like, why did this guy fall to day 3? Like an Ayomanor or Diggs, even Puka, who didn't have the production profile, was an off the charts yards per route run. He was kind of the day 3 lad, But if you're a 3rd round pick, I feel like there's just been such a gap between what like a 3rd round pick and a 5th round pick are, especially for year 1.
It's night and day, dude.
It's night and day. So a lot of these, there's a big cluster of guys who currently aren't. I haven't just put that much work into them because I'm like, man, I don't think this guy's really gonna be anything. And it's almost like I don't want to talk myself into him being something, and then he goes 6th round and we never hear from him again because there's so many of those guys every year. But if any of these, and anyone we've talked about and a few other guys were to go 3rd round, it would change my evaluation considerably.
I'm trying to think. So last year I took 80% McMillan in the big board. I don't think any of these guys are that good. I don't think any of these guys we've discussed. By the way, I mean, this is as much of a nightmare comp list as you were going to find. There's not one good player on this comp list for Dion Burks.
Denarius Moore was good for a second. You could have traded him for
probably wrote like six RotoViz articles about Denarius Moore. It's the right time frame.
How many RotoViz? This comp list is so bad that we need to judge it in RotoViz articles written. Denarius Moore for sure.
1 million, 20, 30 probably.
Smith Marset has blurbs within a larger roundup article.
Yeah,
Jerry's Wright probably got his own article.
I was going to say Jerry's Wright. It's you have to book it out by time. And these guys were just around at the right time to have like whole soliloquies written for them. But
Sky
like
Smith
Jacoby
probably got like a year 2 guy to keep an eye on. I don't know if he got a rookie season 1.
No, he definitely didn't get his
Switzer
own.
got one.
Switzer got one. Duvernay probably got
Duvernay
2 or 3.
Definitely got one. Yeah, 2 or 3.
Yeah.
2 or 3 for Duvernay. Yeah.
I think that's literally everyone. Pat Bryant.
Yeah.
Caden Prather. Prefer Felton. Ricky White, I think if my new prediction is that Ricky White is a big riser through this. I don't know if it'll come from the combine. I don't know what it'll come from, but that production is pretty crazy.
It is pretty crazy. I like that call.
All right, Kerrane. The big board, man.
The big board. It's live.
It's happening.
We got rankings over on legendaryupside.com. Check them out. Still is $10 a month. Updated them this morning for the new ADP. Going to be updating them regularly here as we move along. Continuing to dial in all the rookie stuff. Excited to check in the Senior Bowl weigh-in stuff. And then we're going to get a bunch of buzz from the Senior Bowl. Everyone down there checking out. The thing about the Senior Bowl is like the practices tell you so much. Everyone's there watching, getting a sense of these guys practicing against each other.
So Kerrane sent Sacrilegious there to touch Sacrilegious and get some sun. So Sacrilegious is on site. He's got his Super 8 camera. So he's getting all the film. Then he's sending the film to California by airmail. We're really doing it old school this year.
That's right.
So we're locked in.
Yeah, we are locked in. But last year, I think Ricky Pearsall was one of the big guys at the Senior Bowl.
Huge.
Really helped himself there.
Is Devin Neal at the Senior Bowl?
I think he is.
Yeah, he is.
Khalil Mullings is. I'm excited for him.
Devin Neal is going to be he's going to everyone is going to love this dude at the Senior Bowl.
Everyone's going to love him, yeah. Until he works out.
McConkey was no one would shut up about that. No.
Yeah.
Even more McLaurin was a big one, but McConkey was the biggest one I can remember. It was absurd how much everyone loved him there.
I think you want, especially for these guys, like they're supposed to be able to get open. I'm excited to see who's getting open, at the Senior Bowl. That'll be big. The route running, the ability
and we just get good. We'll start to get a lot more information, like where a guy's going to go, and like mock drafts will get better at this point because Dane Brugler's out there schmoozing, having drinks with guys who are in NFL front offices. He's learning the lay of the land.
Jeremiah, all those guys. We're gonna get a lot more buzz about where they're going. Because let's see, I was listening to McShay. This is a running back, but he was saying he's hearing buzz that scouts would like guys like McShay to stop talking about Damian Martinez, running back from Miami.
Isn't he like 1 billion pounds big? He's just like the biggest guy.
He's like 235, but he doesn't really look it, like in a good way. Like you're like, oh, he's just like a 220. Like you watch him like run and stuff, you're like, oh, he's big. He's like 220, and then you kind of get him from another angle. You're like, oh no, he's like massive, but he doesn't look like a plotter. I think he moves that weight pretty well. I could see NFL teams being excited about a 235-pound man who moves fluidly. That might move some scouts onto his side.
Teach me the optimism.
225. Okay, so he didn't come in quite. Maybe he cut a little weight, but 225 is still pretty big.
Teach me the optimism of salted cod. Wicks with no Watson and a whole offseason to learn how to catch. Some things, the more they change, Mr. Cod, the more they stay the same. I will be back tomorrow for the road to $250,000 as we're going to keep drafting some big boards. My rankings.
We're hoping you'll have a sidekick to draft with as well.
Okay. Well, looking forward to that. Boys, we got a lot to get done before the start of the NFL draft. So let's get drafting. Have a great day, everybody.
It's Short King Summer, dude. It just feels like no one in fantasy sports ever learns anything. Does he mistime it, or is Brock Bowers just a grown man? Brock Bowers is just a grown man. Dare I say, Rich, football might be back. In the words of Lane Johnson, this offense looks constipated. It's sure